Yes, brother.
Let me say this. Try to give as much as you can. Because we'll give this brother a good donation.
Right.
Plus, we have to pay the rental spot here. You know, and it's free. You can't even free, you didn't pay anything. So, Dr. Ben is speaking next Monday.
Oh, yes, that's another thing. Dr. Ben will be here next Monday.
Next Monday. So,
yes, go ahead.
I have a quick question.
Quick question for everybody.
Earlier you referred to how the blood's intelligence handles everything, and you also referred to the intelligence that created us. I was kind of vague. Can you expand on that?
Okay, no problem. He asked about the intelligence of the blood versus the intelligence that created us. Same intelligence. The intelligence that created us essentially gives its evidence by the fact that we are individual units of consciousness walking around without our butts plugged into the wall to juice. What is life except what we see or what is projected as an expression of it? What we have as life is only given as the evidence. But everything about life shows us that whatever is motivating this, whatever is orchestrating this, has to be intelligent. Because when you cut your hand or you break a nail, each of these cells know what to do in order to get that back in order. So there has to be an innate intelligence that we can tap into if we but only study how life works. That's why AIDS cannot be the killer. Because no disease, now listen carefully, I'm about to drop a profound secret. No disease can kill you. Let me just say that again. There is no disease that can kill you. Why? Because disease is body generated.
Even cancer?
Cancer is body generated. Cancer is not deadly. It's deadly when you interfere with what nature has done in its last resort to keep that body alive. People don't start dying from cancer until they've been diagnosed.
So you mentally start dying.
Let me say that again. Just like AIDS, people do not stop dying from cancer until they've been diagnosed. And when they have been diagnosed, they go through a battery of tests, primary of which is to take samples of the cancer to see whether it's what? Right. They want to see whether or not the cancer is poisonous or not poisonous. That's the secret. Once they start jugging with it, what they have done is they have started releasing the poisons back into the body that the body has already sequestered. Breast cancer, for instance. A woman came to me, she was in her 70s, I think she was 71. She was diagnosed with cancer. Cancer, I believe, of the uterus. Very, very cool woman. She said, well, what do I do, doctor? Because the doctors want to start doing tests and all of that on me. And I said, no. Yes, ma'am.
we'll have to get $12 more. We got to get $12 more.
12.
Yes. So you keep talking. I'm going to walk back. Now remember, anybody want to add another dollar? You go ahead, brother. Keep talking.
Yeah. So what happened, I told the woman, she said to me, what am I going to do? I said to her, don't worry about it. Leave it alone. The doctor she was dealing with, I asked her how old is he? He's about in his 60s, early 60s. The woman saw me 11 years later. She was still alive. The doctor had died.
Brother Phil,
Yes.
if you were going to give so-called cancer a name, what would you call it? Because that's a word that when people hear it, Like I said, mentally you begin to die.
Yeah.
What name would you give if you was going to?
Well, I would give it a phrase rather than a name.
Okay.
I would say, last chance to get it right.
Okay.
Because the body is so resilient. When you get into metaphysics, this is why people have this thing. A lot of people who are against metaphysics think that metaphysics is booga booga, spookism. It's not. It is learning how to think about the invisible realm. All things visible first begin in the invisible. The problem is we are so caught up by the illusion of the visible that we do not see what the invisible is about. Whatever you see, whatever is visible is terminal. Whatever is invisible is permanent. So when you learn, what I did for the last 30 years was study the realm of permanence. Because in the realm of permanence, all that exists has its pre-existence. And when you study the pre-existence of man, you understand that man is nothing more than a projection of light into matter. And that the projected image is what your consciousness got used to and put most of its energy in. So you made this shit real, excuse the expression. It's not real. Everybody trying to get you to live longer, it's not real yet. Yes.
All right, I just want to thank everybody. I want to get $100. You know, that's the minimum. But we got $150, so give yourself a pat.
So when you study metaphysics, which is meta, which is beyond, and physics, beyond the physical, when you understand how that works, you know that AIDS and HIV cannot compromise higher intelligence. When higher intelligence is at work, you see it in its dynamic ways, because I don't look at you, I look inside of you when I do my diagnosis or my analysis of you. I listen to you on the phone and I can tell you what organ is out. By just listening to you on the phone, I can tell you what part of your organ. Not just the sniffling and coughing, I can tell you which organ is out by the way that the resonance in your voice is speaking. This is metaphysics. It's not the spookism, ooh, stir the pot, ooh. It's not that. Metaphysics is the new science. Metaphysics is the new medicine, it's the new diagnosis. And until we understand that the body is nothing more than an aggregate of converging energy, of energy streams and wavelengths, harmonics come together inside of a composite form, we will never understand what health is, we will never understand what disease is. So yes, I've been studying metaphysics, and I've been studying spookism, I studied sorcery, I studied mojo, I was raised and initiated an obeah priest. So I did all of it, and I'm saying to you that I've settled on metaphysics or chem metaphysics because all of that and the ability to do that started in Kemet. All of that started in Kemet. So metaphysics or alchemy or Kemet or alchemic, all of that came out of Kim. The study of the invisible realm is what we do. That's why we dance with the ancestors, because we see them. We know metaphysics. We live it. We don't have to study it as a science. Now we do, because for 495 years, you've been dumbed down by Willie Lynch. You can't even see metaphysics anymore as your science. So, when I speak of metaphysics, I'm telling you that you are not what you seem to be. You do not have organs in your body. There is no such thing as systems in your body. There is no such thing as blood vessels in your body. All of that is nothing more than a medical protocol in order to define ways to make money off of you. You are one unitary, whole, functioning, sentient, conscious entity of the Creator. And the separate parts are the way that you manifest into matter. If you were to go into the bottom of the ocean and dive for 1,000 feet, you wouldn't jump in the water and try to do it the way you're dressed. Well, the spirit does not function well in its incorporeal state unless it has the proper suit to function in third density, three-dimensional matter. This is what this is. And the study of its origins, its causal, its origin, tells you what you are in the physical realm of illusion. Because that's what the doctors do. The doctors study the illusion. They don't study the reality. And they're trying to treat an illusion. When doctors treat you, they are ballistically attacking the healing process. So yes, I am a metaphysician, a chemetaphysician, and proud of it. If you want to call me a spookist, I'm a spookist. And proud of it. But the body is a magnificent instrument. And for instance, the vaccination paradigm. Do you know how you become immune? Everybody just says, what's vaccination for? Oh, to get you to build antibodies to get immunity. If you go to the corner now and ask somebody HIV, what's HIV/AIDS? They'll tell you what it is, but will they have told you based upon their study? No, they will have told you based upon the common jargon given to the slave. Get the nigger from the hill to tell the nigger in the valley what time it is. Do you know what immunity is? Do you know what immunity means as it applies to the vaccination paradigm? Can anybody tell? It's all right. We can talk. It ain't like, oh, you dummy. No,
What was the question again, Phil? What was the question?
What is immunity according to the vaccination paradigm of the medical church?
Resistance.
Resistance. Anybody else?
Defense. Self-protection.
Self-protection. Defense. Okay, what do they tell you is the function of the vaccination and how does it work?
They inject the virus to get antibodies up against it.
There it is. You are pumped with the poison so that your body creates antibodies. Alright, let's just examine that. Let's examine that. First and foremost, I want to tell you that before 49, 39, when the vaccination paradigm began to take place, there were no such things or no such definition, no such word in the medical jargon as antibodies. Let me say that again. There were no such words as antibodies in the medical jargon, I believe, before 1939. What happened is, when they began to study the effects of the vaccination paradigm, they studied the blood before and after the vaccination. What they found was that, as I told you in the beginning about vaccinations, that you have a protective layer that if you were to inhale, anything was to go into your eye or to your mouth, anything to enter any part of your body that would have made you vulnerable. In your ear you have wax. All of what you have in these facial areas of the mouth, your body's skin and the mucous membrane were the two components that protected you. Because the body recognized the level of the attack, and the more the level of the attack, the more the mucus it produces to throw it off.
Is that why when you smoke you start coughing because the body is defending itself?
Exactly. It's creating a thick mucus to surround the particulate matter that the smoke leaves. And when you cough, you can see it sometimes, it turns ever blacker the sicker you become, ever darker. And it gets even deeper. Now, what happens is, the vaccination paradigm does something that nature doesn't even do. The needle goes past your skin and past the mucous membrane and puts the filth directly into your bloodstream. That filth that is in that vaccination needle would never have gotten into that bloodstream. Let me say that again. The filth that's in the needle would never have made it into the bloodstream because the body had all of these fail-safe mechanisms to make sure that it would not happen. Yes?
Now stuff like chickenpox, how does that become, how do other people start to catch it?
Okay, let me get to finishing the vaccination paradigm. That's what I'm saying. When you get vaccinated, the body recognizes that the blood has just been polluted with filth that it somehow got in there. It begins to create a heroic effort by drawing all of its substances from the liver, the gallbladder, the stomach, everything, and pours it into the blood to try to get rid of this substance, not only through the skin, but through the lungs, through the eyes, through the defecation, the urinary bladder, everything. It's doing everything it can to get rid of it. Now, when you study the blood, during the time that it is trying to get rid of it, you see that in there are these things that didn't exist in there before. In other words, the body creates unique circumstances to address the poison. Because before that, there was no evidence of that material. In fact, the material that the body made would not have been the material that it would have created had it been attacked by that during the normal ways. In other words, antibodies never exist until after it's been vaccinated, and it will never exist again. It only exists because of the poison that was in the needle. Your body does not patrol the bloodstream. There are no antibodies goose-stepping up and down your bloodstream to protect you. That is the white Western militaristic mentality that has been tied over into the white Western militaristic medical society. So the vaccination paradigm is such that it only happens, antibodies only appear, because they don't really exist. They only appear as this newfound version. And it's the vaccination paradigm that has been weakening us over the past 50 years to the point now where the body is expressing disease conditions that never existed before, because the body is such a wonderful instrument that it will show you an infinite variable of ways to defend itself. Okay? So when you are taking this vaccination, you are doing something that the body would never be exposed to, no matter how much you're wallowing in mud, whatever. It would never have done that. Now you asked the question, somebody asked the question.
How does it, like stuff like chicken, how does it become contagious?
Okay, chickenpox is not contagious. 9 times out of 10, most people who quote-unquote catch chickenpox are eating from the same refrigerator. And it's just a matter of time over the course that their defensive mechanisms will compromise. And another thing, when you become immune, you know what immunity is? When you are not vaccinated, if you have some kind of component in your system that your body has to get rid of, or if you swallow or do something like children, they don't wipe themselves properly and they have waste on their hands and they get these bacilluses that the body has to try to get rid of. The problem is when you become immune, diseases that your body would normally have addressed immediately, that's the problem. See, you have to go on with being a slave. You have money to make for your master, so you can't afford to get sick. So your master needs to vaccinate you, because the way that this society is so polluted and diseased, you're always going to have a runny nose. You're always going to have a headache. You're always going to be showing some symptom to reflect the environment. So what they do, what immunity does, when you put that filth into your system, it cripples your defense. It knocks out your defensive system. So that if you were to be attacked or if you were to bring on a disease condition, your body is so knocked down and completely, debilitated by the vaccination, you don't have a reaction. You're not sneezing. You don't have a cold. I have my flu shot. But what you have done is cripple the body so that it can't react naturally to what is in it. And then now the body later on down the line begins to suffer from a problem that was created because it couldn't get rid of that material. So vaccination cripples the defensive system because there's no such thing as an immune system. You have a defensive system and defenses can be compromised. If you do not do the right thing by the body will show that misbehavior, that type of activity, in the way that it will try to get rid of whatever it is that you've done. In doing that, it is trying to correct your ignorance. But if you keep taking vaccinations or drugs, you cripple the body's ability to react. And that's what they call immunity. Yes?
Well, that was the chemtrails in the skies affecting us.
Well, we'll get to that. As far as the chicken pox, let me get to that. The reason why chicken pox is contagious is one, because usually the family members are in the house eating from the same refrigerator. Two, both of them, the people who are having it, have lung problems. Because chicken pox is actually the body trying to get rid of offending matter that was in the bowels, and the bowels throws the material into the lungs, and the lungs, because it gets stopped up, clogged up, throws it out through the skin. So the large intestines, the lungs, and the skin are connected. 9 times out of 10, children who catch chicken pox were vaccinated for chicken pox. And people who are vaccinated for chicken pox become virulent. That's why they tell you don't take them next to other little young children for a while, because they become virulent with it. It becomes passed on in saliva and so forth. That's why they let little children go into hospitals, because they're so virulent with vaccines that they can pass diseases on. They're little balls of vaccine, little balls of poisons walking around.
Brother Phil,
Yes.
the sister that was asking all the questions, did she get any information from y'all?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, brother.
You said earlier that with all the vaccines and all the filth and needles and medication that people are taking, it suppresses the ability for the body to do what it needs to do. How can you, once you're enlightened to that fact, how can you reverse that process?
How can you reverse the process of what?
Actual, being ignorant to the ways that everyday times, taking vaccines.
Yes. Well, there are ways that you can reverse the process. There is something that you can take called thuja.
Spell that?
Thuja. It's a tissue salt, an inorganic homeopathic that you can take and give to children after vaccinations as well. It helps to take the vaccine, or at least to normalize the nervous system, because remember, the vaccination attacks the nervous system. In children, it destroys something called the myelin sheath, which is a gelatinous component that covers your nerves, and it is actually the transport that allows the nerve to carry electrical energy or electrical signals across from one nerve synapse to the next. When you cripple the ability of the body to create a myelin sheath, then that nerve becomes damaged, and usually children under vaccination paradigms have one of the worst, which is the autism, but also attention deficit disorder. The fact that they can't come together, they can't pay attention, they get disinterested, they get moody, they get sick very often. All of these are the symptoms of vaccination. Yes, brother.
Okay, when I was a youngster, they gave me a vaccination, right? I think most of us ain't got one. Okay, portends free from the future. You got me all scared of it. What portends free from the future in terms of the vaccination I got when I was a kid?
Well, the thing is that the body has this enormous recuperative ability. But know this, that you never, ever totally recover from any disease. All disease, every disease, leaves a permanent mark. So if you have a severe disease that crippled your body for a while, that organ is crippled for life because the memory of that disease is in it. Now there are certain yogic techniques that you can use to remove the memory, but most of the time, who has that yogic technique, which takes years to develop, to remove the signature of the experience from the organ? Because all organs that are affected in diseases keep the template of the experience in it, and you never really are truly healed. Somebody over here. Yeah.
I wanted to add, another thing you can do is to make sure that you are nutritionally correct, to make sure that you're getting the nutrition you need, the rest that you need, the sunlight that you need. All of those things that Dr. Nelson mentioned before are very, very important when you already have that poison in your blood and you're trying to clean the cells, clean the tissues, detoxify the liver.
The body has incredible recuperative powers. It will actually grow new vessels around the situation. People who came to me with they had a serious drinking problems with cirrhosis. When they after we did work with them, terrible fasting, what happens is they went back and the doctors did x-rays and found that the liver had grown vesicles, though very tenuous or very weak, around the offending place. This is how wonderful the body does. It compensates. That's why if you have a diagnosis of cancer, don't panic.
Right.
The last thing you should do is panic. It is simply the end result of the body's effort and your ignorance to allow the body to do what it needs to do. The body lives on not because of you, but in spite of you. You heal not because of the doctor, but in spite of the doctor. The doctor will never tell you that he heals. That's why I tell brothers and sisters in the natural healing community that you are not a healer. I never call myself a healer. You can't heal. The divine intelligence within you that orchestrates all life, that is the healer. You are simply an assistant, and your assistance is based upon the level of your intelligence. And intelligence is definitely what the word says, intelling. You have to use that part of you, intelligence. The same word, intelligene. You speak from here. All is mine, according to Jehudi, the Kabbalion. All is mind. So thus, all diseases are created in the mind. The first pollution is thought pollution. After thought pollution, every other type of pollution in the environment follows. Yes, brother.
Why if there's an cooperation between the healers that are healed and healers that are not?
Okay, I'm not a healer.
Right.
Oh, okay, all right.
I am simply, an assistant in the process of healing.
I'm seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I see that in Africa, it's not the regular doctor, the ones that there is no regular doctor. They kind of ostracize or isolate.
Yes.
And I feel like you must be doing the same way somehow.
Yes, I do.
Is there bridging?
Yes, there was a time I was asked to speak at the United Nations. And during that time, I befriended the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress of Tanzania, during the time they were fighting for their independence. And Dr. Feko, who was at the time one of the ambassadors from the Pan-Africanist Congress, introduced me to some people who were over from Africa, where I became part of the delegation. But the fact of the matter is, there were a lot of people who were in higher orders in government who were black here, trying to stop that connection because they didn't want us to deal with experimentation. I would speak to the brothers in South Africa specifically, and I would get in contact with brothers in Libya. There are brothers in, what was the name of the brother, from out of Ghana? Liberia, I mean, not Libya, Liberia. And we would be, talking about, you know, getting this particular consciousness, but there were too many Christians we were running into. There were too many African Christians that did not want to deal with their own cultural identity. I had another brother who went over to Africa, one of my students, and as he was talking to some of the sisters in Ghana, one of the sisters, he asked, could you tell me something about your people and what they did, the work? Tell me something about the ceremonies and rituals. And she said, well, I don't want to, you know, speak heresy and you know, against the word of God, and we were covenanted to devils and demons. And he was standing there appalled at this 17, 18-year-old young woman who said that she will talk about it, but she doesn't want to become covenanted to demons. Yes, I want to help, I want to reach out, I want to do, but I keep getting these obstacles because there are too many Christians, too many Islamic, too many formatted brains, and they don't want that to get out. They do not want that. So the United Nations was a beautiful experience, and I thought we were now getting ready to get international, but that, matter of fact, that shut down faster than anything else that I ever tried to endeavor. Yes, brother.
If you look at the role of Dr. Finch, he went to synagogue, and he did a good combat stuff.
Yeah.
I want to know if I'm making a mistake, is it the same type of work, or is it
I'm not sure what Dr. Finch is doing. Because like I said, this was back in 1992 or 93 maybe, that I went, no, maybe earlier than that. I think it was in the 80s, the end of the 80s that I went. And I don't know what Dr. Finch is doing. Maybe there are people making headway under the download, but a lot of brothers from Africa who are talking to me about it saying, yeah, it looks like we're going Christian, but there is an underground movement that's not giving up their heritage. Because they understand what it is. They're dealing with a Tai Chi. They're saying, oh yes, come in, come in, come in, come in. And then, see? But there is an underground. Like we are an underground movement. They do have an underground tradition that they do not leave. They do not let. In other words, there's a secret societies for women over there that the men don't have nothing to do with. And there's secret societies for the men that the women ain't got nothing to do with. But over here, secret societies for men, women want to say, hey, it's secret. We want to be in. Only in a matriarchal society will you see the kind of madness that we're dealing with here today. Only in a paternal-maternal society will you see why Africa for the last 125,000 years was raised up in such greatness. Even here in this continent here, this is not Western civilization. This is ice civilization. This is Nordic civilization. They're making you think this is Western civilization. But Western civilization was destroyed. They're just simply living on the wreckage and the bric-a-brac that they left. Yes, Guru.
Phil, I know you said that you weren't a healer, but I beg to differ. Because I've been through one of your consultations, I've spoken to you on the phone, and words alone, and the knowledge that you bring is definitely healing to me.
Give thanks.
So I came here today, I just wanted to thank you for the knowledge that you displayed to me, that you gave to me, because it did a lot of great work for me. And my queen, she's very shy, but she made you something because it actually spilled over and healed her also. So she's very shy, but she wanted to bring something to you.
Oh, give thanks. Give thanks. Thank you so much, beloved. Wow. Yes, ma'am.
I know this is going to be, you dropped a bomb like 40 minutes ago about the October and going into chapter 7 liquidation. I'm sorry, you dropped the bomb. I just have to go back there and explain exactly what is going on in October and what do you mean that they're liquidating
Okay, is that
us as assets.
All right, before we do that, Is everybody satisfied that we've answered all the questions we need to today on AIDS?
I just have one quick
Yeah.
one.
Sister first behind you, Sister go behind you.
I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that when I first started working in the hospital, I worked in microbiology and I made vaccines. Okay, and what we did, we took the live bacteria and killed it, and then the essence of it was put into a drawer, so a liquid, and that would be the inoculation that we spoke
Yes.
about. So it's not new.
Right.
Procedure is very old.
Yes.
And
Well, the
I think
procedure,
it's
yeah.
today.
Yeah, the procedure was once, it was actually started by the Arabs. Actually, the Moors did the vaccinations. And what they would do essentially is take a little of the cow pus and just prick the skin with it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't actually put it directly into the bloodstream. That paradigm didn't start until Jensen. And Jensen actually killed his child, experimenting on his son. I think he gave him 36 vaccinations. So the vaccination paradigm came up under Jensen and under, what's his name, the one who studies cell and microbiology, cellular biology again. Who is the guy that they always give all the props to about him discovering in the microscope the cell?
Crotch.
Who?
No. Crotch.
No, not Coates. Not Coates. Oh, my posture. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Another way that they did it, for instance, we could talk about that just to dovetail from it. The way that they made the smallpox vaccination is very interesting. What they do is they take a young calf, and what they do is turn it upside down by its hind legs, and they get a very sharp razor, and they cut about 6 or 7 slits into the belly. And then they take the live smallpox isolation, the isolated smallpox, and then butter it into the wounds. Then they put a yoke around the cow's neck so that the cow can't lick it off or do anything with it. In about, say, 6 days, 5 to 6 days, a amorphous pus, and some of the most scrofulous crap you want to see, is then extracted, and that becomes the foundation to the vaccine. Then what they do is they take it and put it into a centrifugal, and they spin it so that all of the meat from the wound ends up on the side, and the essence of the pus is what they use in the smallpox vaccination. That's why when Strecker came out and talked about the smallpox vaccination being the precursor to the so-called HIV/AIDS, and they said that they were finding cow viruses in there, I said, of course they'll find cow viruses because the smallpox is a cowpox. What kind of stupid idiocy are they talking about? They say we're finding HTLV3 and HTLV5 and all this. All of this is the body's effort to try to get rid of the problem by changing it. Now, what is a virus, very quickly, before we go to the sister's question? A virus is simply an organelle or debris from cellular division. Virus, and they give you the exact name for a virus. I brought it for you from here, and Dr. Brown gave it to me. It says here that viruses are submicroscopic agents of disease that cannot exist on their own and require a living host. Now wait a minute. If something cannot exist on its own, what is it?
Parasite? Dead.
It's dead. Listen, virus is a Latin word that means a slimy liquid, poison, or venom. During the history of microbiology, virus was used to denote an infective agent of disease. When the causes of many bacterial diseases were discovered, there remained a group of diseases whose cause could not be determined using Koch's process. This is a lie to uphold the infectious disease carryover. If you are healthy, let me ask you a question. They say that you can catch a disease. Check?
Check.
Well, a disease is a component of health. Can you catch health?
Good question.
We're not paying attention. Is health contagious? Yes, a good smile is contagious. A yawn is contagious. But is a downright crippling, dead-dealing disease contagious? No, it's not. There it is again. Viruses are so small and so simplified in structure that they challenge our concepts and definitions of cellular life. They are infectious agents capable of multiplication, but only within complete living cells. Now wait a minute. They can't multiply themselves unless they're in cells. Somebody's playing with your mind. Then they say they replicate and create DNA and RNA and all this crap. What you are actually watching is a virus. What are viruses? Viruses are markers. While they're in the bloodstream, there are components created like lymphocytes by the bloodstream, by the brain, and as the blood cells pass by this dead piece of debris, it sends a signal back to the brain that something is here. So viruses are the end result of cellular division that float in the bloodstream at submicroscopic levels, but there are specific materials called lysosomes in the blood that act as janitors to mark what's wrong in the blood. So a virus is good to the host that it has because it gives the body an indication of where the poisons are. As the virus is in the bloodstream, there are certain lysosomes and other janitorial cells that attach themselves to it. They find it and they attach themselves to it. And after they have created enough of a size, the rest of the blood cells begin to send triggers and it is escorted right out of the body. So a virus is necessary. You can't kill the virus or get rid of a virus in the body because then the body would not know what to look for to get rid of. They are indicator cells. Okay? Now, you get the idea that a virus can't duplicate itself. It can't live unless it is inside of a host. It doesn't eat. It doesn't separate or reproduce. What is it? It's dead. It has all the non-life components. None of it has the ability to do anything to you. If you have enough virus material in your bloodstream and enough filth in your bloodstream, yes, you can have a viral reaction. Why? Because the components of the blood that would recognize the filth no longer are working. So yes, your body has to use another type of approach. But it doesn't mean that the body cannot do it if it's left alone and it does the right thing. That's the secret. Okay? Quickly.
There was a form or something you fill out for a kid that you don't want to have.
Yes. Verse. We have a vaccination package. And no matter where you are in the state, we have a church group that writes a letter if you do not wish to have vaccinations for yourself or your child. There is a cost, but it's a one-time fee to join it. And we become your spokesperson because I become your minister. I am your spiritual counselor. And, we go and we pray. And we ask,
Can I get a witness?
Can I get a witness? All right now. Because they say in their Bible, where two are gathered in my name. Hallelujah.
So I can call the number?
Yes, you can call us and, if you know anyone who you think would benefit from the non-vaccination paradigm or being against the paradigm, call us and we'll be more than happy. Yes, brother.
Yeah. I've been going to,
Real quick. Yeah. We just got 5 minutes to go.
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. No worries. You know it, brother. You know. Yes, very quickly.
I've been going to a Jewish dentist, right?
Step in, brother. We want to listen to this. Yeah.
I've been going to a Jewish dentist. Now I don't have any teeth.
Right.
You know? Is that part of like things they do to break down this
Well, some of
system?
these people are actually agents in certain communities. They can put transceivers in your tooth. This brother found a transmitter in his tooth. That's right. Because it began to give him a headache, and he began to hear voices in his head.
Well, I don't hear voices.
Well, cool. They may not have put it, but just watch yourself. Now, you were saying, real quick.
After I'm asking.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, I'm open to consultations. You have my telephone number. Again, 718-264-9497. How you doing? All right, last question. What's going to happen in October? I'll tell you what.
Details.
There's no details. What's happened is the United States of America is a corporation. It's not a country. As a corporation, it has to refinance its debts. Because it does not have money, the money that you have in your pocket is not true money, it has not been able to pay its debts. So every time you use a dollar bill, you are actually taxed for the worth of what you get in a real substance. If you buy a car with the money in your pocket, it's not been paid for. That's why the state owns it. Your car, they give you a certificate of title, not the manufacturer's title. You are now in bankruptcy. Your social security card, your driver's license, your birth certificate are all adhesion contracts to this corporation called the United States. You have been in Chapter 11 since 1789. The problem is you have not been able to pay the debt owed to the King of England and to the international bankers. They are now going to take you from Chapter 11 into Chapter 7 receivership. In other words, the country is going to be sold off at auction, and you are part of that auction because you have a Social Security. You do not have your land. You do not have your own property of your body. This is how they are financing the war in Iraq. They are putting brothers and sisters into jail, and they are warehousing you. And your Social Security number has become the warehouse receipt because each and every one of you were fixed with $1 to $10 million in a bank account. And that's what they use to leverage and to service debt across the country.
That same concentration, is that coming from the birth certificate?
It's a birth certificate as well.
Get that man a black hand. Still Valentine.
I want to make two announcements. One